All right, now we're going to take a look at the lessons in Nitro 3.3. This first lesson here, they want us to write some code that will display whether or not a number is positive. It doesn't indicate if it should be an integer or a double, so I'm just going to say it's an integer. So let's do integer my number equals 59, and then we're going to have a little if statement. If my number is less than 0, then that means it is negative. So system.out.println, the number is negative. Exclamation, it looks like. And then otherwise, if it's not less than 0, then it's got to be greater than or equal to 0. So we're going to say system.out.println, the number is positive. So let's just see if this works for starters. So 59, it says the number is positive. Negative 59, it says the number is negative. So now all we have to do is make it so that we ask the user for a number. So let's create a scanner. System.in, and then int my number is my input dot next int. So now the user is going to supply the number. Let's add a line that asks the user for a number. System.out.println, enter a number. And then let's see if the number is positive or negative. So enter a number. 4, the number is positive. Run it again, enter a number. -2, the number is negative. Run it again, enter a number. 0, the number is positive. So that looks like it's running okay, and I think that's all that they wanted us to do. All right, on to the next little piece of this. Battleship move. Okay, so this is simulating a little piece of a board game called Battleship. And they're testing different battleship objects here, but they want us to complete the move method in the battleship class. So if we go over here, switch over to the battleship class, the move method doesn't have any code in it. So we're just going to say if safe to move, then we want to increase the position by 5. So we're going to say position plus equals 5. Otherwise, position minus equals 5. If it's not safe to move forward, the position of the ship should decrease by 5. So if it's safe to move, then increase by 5. Otherwise, decrease by 5. I believe that's all we need to do. Just one little if-else statement. Okay, let's see what this code does just for jollies. Submarine at 4, carrier at 2, submarine cleared to proceed. So now the submarine's at 9. Carrier not cleared to proceed, so the carrier, instead of going forward 5 to 15, goes backwards 5 to 5. Okay, that's what we wanted there. On to the next little writing assignment. Going back to ratings again. So we have this rater class again and a rater tester. So over here in the rater class, we have a rating to be from 1 to 5 like it was before. We have the name of the company, and there's something new here called review. So the review will either be proudly recommended or will be needs more ratings. And on the toString method, we're going to print the name of the company and one of these two reviews. So in the toString method, well, update review. So when an instance of the rater class is created, the constructor does not do a review. It does not require a review to be passed as a parameter. In fact, it sets the review as the empty string. So on update the review, we're going to say if the company's rating is 3 or more, as they say right here. So if the rating is greater than or equal to 3, then the review will say proudly recommended. Otherwise, the rating is less than 3, which means it's like 2 or 1, and we're going to say review equals something else, and they want us to say needs more ratings. Okay, so when they call the update review, the review initially is an empty string, and then that's going to get updated to either proudly recommended or it needs more ratings, depending on what the current rating is. Okay, so then in the toString method, they want us to print the name of the company, and then a space, and then a colon, and then a space, and then the review. So first thing we ought to say is update review. And then we're going to do system.out.println and the name of the company, which is just name, and then a plus sign, and in quotes a space and a colon and a space to match this right here, and then a plus sign and the current review. So we're going to print all of that, or I should say not print all that, we're going to return all of that. We're going to return all of that. The name of the company and the colon surrounded by spaces and the review after updating the review. And the other thing they said they want us to fix over here is the set rating. And like we did before, if the new rating is less than or equal to 5, then our rating should now equal the new rating. But if it's not less than or equal to 5, that means it's greater than 5, which means it's an illegal number for the rating. And in that case, we're not going to change the rating at all. So we have our constructor, we have the set rating method, we have the update review method, and we have the get rating method, and we have the toString method. And then they want us to, over in the main, go back to here, they want us to create a rater object. So rater, my rating equals new rater. Create a new object, set its rating to less than 3, and call the update review, and then print out the object. So let's say the company's name is Jay's Cafe, and it's got a rating of 2 because they said something less than 3. And then for that rater object, which I called my rating, we're going to call the update review. And then we're going to do system.out.println my rating. My rating, just my rating, like this. Bam. So let's see what that does. Jay's Cafe needs more ratings. But if I had given it an initial rating of 4, it would say Jay's Cafe proudly recommended. So that looks like that's okay. So then what they want us to do is change the rating. So my rating dot set rating. Let's set the rating now to 4. And then with the rating now set at 4, let's print out my rating. So when the rating is set at 2, it says Jay's Cafe needs more ratings. But then when I updated the rating to 4, it says Jay's Cafe proudly recommended. That looks like that's okay. Test both branches of the else if. I think we got that going correctly. The only thing is they wanted me to update the review again. So I should have this line added in here. And since they're forcing me in the main to do the update review, then I guess I really don't need to do the update review over here. I wasn't sure if they were going to ask us to do that in the main, but we can do that right here. And now check the code and everything should be okay. So that's it for that little, that's a little bit more than our previous assignment was on a rating or a rater. Okay, so now we're moving on to 338, which is something about a basketball player's score. Okay, so here they want us to enter the names of 2 players and the number of points each of them scored. And then it's going to print out how much points each of them scored in alphabetical order. And to get them in alphabetical order, we're going to use the compare to method. And then based on how many points they scored, then we're going to declare a winner at the end. So first of all, let's create a couple players. So I'm going to say string player1 equals J and string player2 equals David. And then the compare to. So every string has various methods like the length method and the substring method and the and different methods like that. And one of the methods we can use is the compare to method. So if we do player1 dot compare to and in parentheses player2, it's going to compare those 2 strings and it's going to return an integer, which is the difference between, well, in this case, it's going to be the difference between the first character there and the first character there. So from D to J, you have E, F, G, H, I, J. They are 6 apart. So if we print this out, system.out.println, just to remember how to deal with this compare to method. If we compare one way, it should give us an answer of 6. If we compare the other way, it should give us an answer of -6. So this is only part way to understanding the code that we have to write. Just trying to remember how the compare to method works. So player 1 is 6 greater than player 2. So this comparison results in the integer 6. And then player 2 is 6 less than player 1. So that results in a -6. If we make them equal in the first letter and equal in the second letter, then it's going to compare the first letter that they don't have in common. Let's see what this looks like. So now we get a 12 and a -12. And why is that? Well, 12 because lowercase y is 12 greater than lowercase m. And if you remember our ASCII 2 character map, lowercase y and lowercase m, lowercase y is the number 121, and lowercase m is the number 109. And so when you subtract those two, you get 12. So there's no difference between the J's, there's no difference between the A's, there is a difference between those two, and the difference is 12. By the way, capitalization matters. If I make this JA with a capital A, the value of capital A is different from the value of lowercase a. Capital A is a 65, and lowercase a is a 97. So those are 32 apart, if I do it like that. So just a note there to know that the compared to is case sensitive. Uppercase A is 32 less than lowercase a, because uppercase a is 65 and lowercase a is 97. Okay, so enough of that. So let's ask the user for player 1's name. Copy that. System.out.println, enter player 1's name. And then from the input, so we're going to say string player 1 doesn't equal j, but it equals the input dot next line. And then now that we know player 1's name, we can say system.out.println. Oh, let's repeat that, sorry. System.out.println, enter player 2's name, and then our string player 2 is equal to whatever they entered. Next line. And then we're going to print the name of the first player so that they can enter the score. So we're going to say system.out.println, enter space. I'm not going to say player 1 score. I want to get the name of player 1, which is stored in the variable player 1. Enter player 1, and then apostrophe S for possession, player 1's score. And then we're going to do an integer, which is, we'll call it player 1 score, equals our input scanner dot next int. And then something very similar, system.out.println, enter player 2's score. But notice this is the variable player 2, so it's actually going to print out their name. Player 2 score equals input next int. So let's make sure all of that is working correctly first. Enter player 1's name, J. Enter player 2's name, David. Enter J's score, 32. Enter David's score, 14. Okay, so all of that is working good so far. Now the last piece we have to do here, well, the second to last piece is we have to print out their names and how many points they scored in alphabetical order. So this compare to is going to be used in an if statement. If player 1 compared to player 2, if that is less than 0, then that means player 1 should come first. If player 1 is earlier in alphabetical order, then the compare to will return a negative number. Otherwise, if player 1 doesn't come first, then that means player 2 should come first. So, if player 1 comes first, then we're going to do system.out.println the name of player 1, and in quotes a space and the word scored and a space, and then after the quotes their point total, which is player 1 score, and then in quotes a space and the word points. And then all of that all over again for player 2. The name of player 2 is in that variable, and the point total for player 2 is in that variable. Otherwise, player 2 should come first. So otherwise, we'll do the exact same thing, except we'll print out player 2 first and their score, followed by player 1 and their score. So let's see if that part works. If this works, then the only thing we're missing is the declaring of a winner. So if player 1's name is J and player 2's name is David, David should come first in alphabetical order. J's score 123, David's score is 1. David scored 1 point, J scored 123 points. So that part is correct. And now one more if statement to determine the winner. If player 1 score is greater than player 2 score, then player 1 is the winner. So we're going to say something congratulatory for player 1. System.out.println the name of player 1, and then a space and the word wins and an exclamation mark. Otherwise, we're going to do almost the same thing, except we're going to say player 2 wins. Now, technically, they didn't tell me how to handle a tie, so I don't think I'm going to worry about that. Let's run the code again. So player 1's name is J, player 2's name is David. Enter J's score, 14. Enter David's score, 15. David scored 15, J scored 14. I put them in alphabetical order. David wins. I think that's all working correctly, and I think that's all that we have to do. But I just wanted to highlight one other point. I wanted to mention that if we do J for the first player name And if we do David for the second player name, but we don't capitalize David, Jay's score is 20, David's score is 15. If we don't capitalize David, Jay will come before David. So now it's telling us Jay's score first, then David's score, and of course Jay's score is more, so Jay wins. So I think this is doing everything that we need it to do. So we're done with that little portion. And that's it for 3.3.